Welcome to Wils Bach's Song Pod, a show where we dig deep into the songs and artists that move us and how we're moved to craft the songs we write. I'm Tim Wils Bach, and I write, release, and perform music as Wils Bach, and you can find me anywhere you stream music. Let's dig in. My guest today is a soul rock singer-songwriter from Albany County, New York. He's released 6 albums since 2018, but to fully appreciate his artistry, you'll need to take a look at his YouTube channel, where you'll also see that he is not just a multi-instrumentalist and performer, but a showman, an actor, a director, a producer, truly a multi-hyphenate artist. In 2023, he was featured and mentioned as part of NPR's Tiny Desk concert with his very meta song about the same, Don't Quit Your Day Job. If there were any level of creative justice in the world, he'd be a viral sensation in the best possible way and be able to do just that, although it turns out that maybe he's done that already, and we'll talk about that. His singing voice is emotive and captivating, as is his artistic voice. I'm so looking forward to a conversation with this super creative guy. Please welcome to Wils Bach's Song Pod, Bryan Thomas, also known as Buggy Jive. Buggy, how are you?
I'm doing all right.
Good to see you. I'm excited to have you on the pod this morning. So I first heard of you. I have a friend that named Gio that runs this thing called Truck Stop Mixtape. And he's doing all kinds of creative stuff, typically inviting other artists on to his little YouTube channel or his podcast or whatever. But he showed me, he put on his pod this video that you have called How to Write Another Song About the Moon. That's just this beautiful song, and really kind of what we do here on this pod, which is talk about how the songwriting process goes and how the creative process goes. And it's almost like a little mini documentary on how, maybe not how you write a song always, but how you wrote that particular song. So that once I found that, I was like, I really am digging this guy and I need to talk to him. So yeah. Talk to me about that song. I know how that song came up because you say it, but let's talk about that song a little bit.
Yeah. There is a real sadness behind it because I came up with that song shortly after, it was like a day or two after one of my local music heroes and mentors had passed away kind of quickly from and unexpectedly from cancer. And I think that same night, and her, Caroline Johnson, Mother Judge, just an amazing musical force and a brilliant songwriter in her own right, but also just a very big in like inviting people and engendering like the community and really big in the community arts locally. So it was a tremendous loss. And I think it was like 2 days later where I got an email that another one of my mentors was sick. And the email just said kind of cryptically that he had to pull out of a little songwriter event that we were having. And then a couple months later, he was gone too. But it was kind of, being shell-shocked by the one loss and then the other one. And it was just a weird thing. I was at gymnastics practice with my daughter, and I had gotten that email, and I came home, and my wife goes, "Oh, it's supposed to be a full moon, like a super worm moon or something crazy. We should go look at it." And I was like, yeah, maybe. I don't know. I was just like kind of indifferent. But then I was just thinking about, the imminent loss of Caroline's husband. Like he had just lost his partner. So it was just, I started thinking more about their partners and how they were dealing with the loss and the imminent loss. I don't know. That was the kernel of the song. Like, take those moments when you can. And for whatever reason, like I wrote down what my wife said, we should go outside and look at the moon. Mm-hmm. And then, my indifferent responses, I've seen the moon before. I'm good. Yeah. So I just started singing a melody along with that. And I was like, I don't know, just there was a fire in me. I ran to the basement and I had an old camcorder. Like, who uses camcorders anymore? But it was right there. I was like, you know what? I should just document it just to see what happens. And I just let it run. And, it was like 2 hours of like kind of putting the song together. I edited it down with some color commentary along the way, and there's a little humor embedded as far as my frustrations with not being able to get things right, or
Uh-huh.
deciding to get rid of the guitar parts or bring strings in, and trying to come up with a drum track and talking to myself throughout. But it
Yeah.
was just, I just kind of forgot the camera was there, and just, I guess somewhere along the way I was like, how do I turn this into something? So the idea was public domain
Yeah.
footage from early silent films, and
Yeah.
so I mixed that in. I tried to make the studio footage look like old timey black and
hmm
white. Yeah, so that it was fun to put it all together, and I'm glad I captured it. But yeah, there was like an underlying sadness to it.
And that absolutely comes through. I mean, I think that's
Yeah,
why not only is it's well put
yeah,
together and crafted as a music video, but what keeps you watching it too is that there's that emotional
yeah,
connection that you're feeling. And when I came to it too, I mean, it was
hmm
that it
yeah,
was 2021, 2020. It
probably,
was right around, when we were
yeah,
all still hiding in our houses and
yeah,
people were dying. And
yep, yep, yep.
so yeah, it was just kind of a time, and but
hmm
also big enough that it wasn't like people are dying from COVID and that's what I'm singing about. It was
Right,
this bigger thing, which
right,
is
yeah.
to me is always the hallmark of a great song, when you can
It's oh
massage
well,
that up.
thanks, man.
And then you mentioned there's some humor in there too, like you've
Mm.
got the thing about the, oh no, it's in C, uh,
Ah.
which is always the easiest to play in the piano, which I find.
I know. I'm like, it's so boring.
I don't ever have to hit the black keys. It's nice. Because I can't get my fingers up there.
She suggests we step outside to see the moon, just so we could say we did it. I've seen the moon before.
You mentioned in there too, you shape the chords around the melody. So when you're writing a song, is that kind of typically how you start? Do you typically start with the lyric and a melody, or how do you approach a song?
This particular song was kind of backwards from the way I usually work, because I kind of started with a lyric and a melody, and I kind of built it around that. Just because I feel like the music needs to be different and interesting to me. Like I try to get away from, usually when I write a song, I'm just screwing around on the guitar, and I, not necessarily a mistake, but I stumble onto something that's kind of outside of the box of what I usually play when I'm just kind of fooling around and riffing. And
Uh-huh.
that's usually, I'm like, oh, there's something unique that I haven't really done before. Let me see if I can develop that. And then separately, if I come up with lyric ideas, I'll jot those down in like an iPhone note or somewhere, so that when the music and the chords and the rhythm come to me, I can look over to my notes of lyrics and
hmm
find one that kind of matches the feel and the groove of whatever riff or chord progression or groove that I've come up with on the guitar. It is interesting that like that video is kind of the opposite way of how I usually work. I usually
Uh,
start with the music.
yeah, but sometimes whichever way it finds you is
Yeah.
is
Oh
the way
yeah,
that's going to work
definitely.
that day.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
kind of nice to break it up a little bit sometimes, to just get a
Mhm.
different creative direction maybe.
Yeah. That was part of it. I mean, I'm like obsessed with creative process. It's funny,
Yeah.
like a friend, I was out with a friend of mine, and he was talking about um particularly like how with Prince, since he passed, the estate has released like all these piles of songs from the vault of unreleased stuff that we've never heard before. And he was asking me, are there good songs in there? Like any stand out? And I'm like, I'm not really even listening to them for like song quality. I'm listening to them in the context of like, this was between when he did Around the World in a Day and the Parade album. And I'm thinking much more about its place in the history of his career and how it fits into his creative process, as
Yeah.
opposed to, is this a good song or not? Like, I don't even know at this point. I'm just listening, more in, it's almost like as a historian than
Yeah. It's
music
study almost.
appreciator.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely. He
Uh,
definitely takes me to school.
Yeah, for sure. All of us.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's almost like a museum piece, right? Like he didn't want it out in the world or wasn't ready for it to be out in the world yet. So yeah,
Right.
it's just like, well, we don't have that artistic and creative force anymore, but yeah, now, but
Hmm.
we can dig through,
Right.
what's left
Right.
and see what we can learn.
Right. There's one piece that I think he did release on one of his I think it was on the Crystal Ball project. But there's an extended version where the beginning of it is he's directing the band. Like he's telling them when to come in and how to build up before he starts singing.
Yeah.
And that's like gold,
Yeah.
Like, and the song is like one of my favorites of all time. And yet, like, to hear him like directing the band like that, like in the studio, that's like, you know, you're a fly on the wall for the actual creative process, which
Right.
like I completely appreciated.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's neat. You like kind of see the
Yeah.
guide wires when that they erased when it got finished. Right.
Right. Right.
So you're a big Prince fan. I know you're also a big Joni fan, which
Yeah. Yep.
yeah. I don't really know any Joni, which is a terrible thing for me. I should probably dig into her catalog a little more.
I think I hit her at the right time. Like, and it's funny because I mean, I always liked like the song "Help Me." I just remember, to date myself, like I just totally remember that being on like 70s radio. So like getting ready for school, the AM radio's playing, you're listening for the weather report to see if school's closed. And like, I hear that song and those horns, and it's like a time machine. It's like this. So I always kind of loved that song.
Yeah.
But I didn't really know much of her other stuff too. And then when I started really getting into Prince, he would always drop these hints of how much he was a fan of hers. And Hissing of Summer Longs was his favorite album, or the last one he liked all the way through anyway. And then he name checked her in on the Sign of the Times album in the song "The Ballad of Dorothy Parker," which is like one of my favorite songs of all time. So that I was like, okay, all right, Prince, I'll check her out. And I think she hit me right at the right time because I was getting more into songwriting. I just bought an acoustic guitar, and I was really impressed with like her playing and the different tunings and the way she would just created this different sonic energy, the arc of her career. It's like every album is different. I mean, she started more in that traditional folk world, but then she moved more into like fusion and jazz and world music. And it just, I mean, she was sampling back in, 75 before anybody was really even thinking about that kind of stuff. She's just a deep body of work that she's created, and her lyrics are just like, they're the gold standard.
Yeah.
For if you ever see an interview with her, I mean, she speaks in poetry, so it makes sense that her lyrics are so evocative and descriptive, and they just really get to the heart of what the hell she's talking about. So I really dug it. But if I had come to her like a little earlier or a little later, it might not have hit the same way.
Yeah.
Like some of the early stuff, like the Helium. I mean, I love those songs, but you can tell she's coming from that school of like who can sing the highest kind of thing, like in the folk clubs or stuff. But the 70s records are kind of the sweet spot for me.
When did you come to her? Like when in your journey of being an artist?
I think I was probably like 24, 25.
Okay.
A couple years out of college. Which was,
and had you been you'd been writing already, or?
I'd been writing. I don't know if you could. Yeah, I guess you could call them songs. But I mean, like when I was in bands in high school, we were mostly doing covers.
Yeah.
I would kind of do my own thing on the side. I wasn't really a guitar player back then. I was more of a keyboard player. So I had a little Fostex cassette 4-track recorder, and I'd do my little songs like, with a little Casio keyboard and stuff. But they were always like, kind of quirky and jokey, and I don't know.
Yeah.
Just they weren't Like I won't be digging out any of those songs
Right.
to record for the next album. Like
Right.
the guitarist in my band in high school, this was several years ago, but he's like, oh my God, I found like a bunch of our old stuff. And I was so looking forward to hearing this stuff. And I played it. I was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, this is terrible. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
We did this in front of people? Like, and it was mostly my vocals that I was just horrified by.
Yeah.
I was like, I can't believe they made me the singer of the band. I'm like, I can't, you guys, this was just mean. I still get like, so yeah, it wasn't very polished. And, but yeah, by the time I hit Joni, I was definitely starting to understand more of what a song was. And by the same token, one of the things that drew me to her was her willingness to, not just do the verse, chorus, bridge, verse, chorus, her song structure alone was,
Yeah. She's breaking out of patterns and just being a little different. Yeah.
She just hit me at the right time.
You actually have a song that kind of, I don't know if it's an autobiographical moment of discovery around at least a specific song about Joni. I'm assuming that's what that is. Maybe you can tell me about it.
Yeah,
Encyclopedia Black and the Case of You.
That song is bananas.
Yeah. And that's another one where the video is like incredible. Like it's almost like you need them both, but talk about that song.
There's only been a couple songs I'll say where the concept for the video was kind of essential to the writing of the song.
Uh-huh.
And that one I did after the fact. I definitely wrote the song first and only came up with the video for it afterwards. But it is pretty biographical. When I finally locked into Joni, I think the first two I bought, it was like a double cassette of For the Roses and Court and Spark, both on so two albums for one, on one cassette.
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, to date myself, I bought a cassette.
Yeah. Right. I'm right there with
the legend was that Prince had done a Case of You at the First Avenue show where he recorded all the songs that were used in the Purple Rain movie.
Uh-huh.
Which is pretty cool. Like that video is out there of that full show. And those tracks are basically what they use for most of the songs in the album. Like Let's Go Crazy, Baby I'm a Star, Purple Rain itself. Like, I mean, they edited all down and, added some stuff, but those are basically that's basically a live album. But the legend was that he did a Case of You, this Joni Mitchell song, as part of his set that night. And, years before I actually got hold of the bootleg or the video of that show, I just always kind of assumed that Case of You was like this funky song. And I really did think it was like a detective case, like police procedural.
Yeah, totally.
like I'm investigating this case of you, which I thought was great wordplay, and turns out no, it's a case of wine, Brian.
Right.
It's not. It's just It's So when I heard the song, I thought, and began again because of my stupidity and assuming that it's Prince, so it's probably some funky "A Case of You, I'm investigating." So when I came up with that, again, I was playing the guitar and I was just, I don't know, I think I was just doing. It was standard tuning, but for some reason I wasn't really playing chords. I was just holding my fingers over the strings, just like. Oh, you can't see anyway. I mean,
this is video. I can see you.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I mean, for the podcast, they can't see.
Yeah, we'll put this. Yeah, it'll be up on YouTube too. So.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So I was just doing this kind of thing, just like.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, it's kind of funky. And I'm like, it kind of like in the moment, I was like, this sounds like what I heard in my head. This is what I thought a Case of You was going to be. I thought it was going to sound more like Prince's Ballad of Dorothy Parker, which is the song where he name checks Joni. And then, you come upon the actual song and it's this gorgeous dulcimer ballad. Like I'm tearing up just thinking about like the song is just gorgeous and slow, but it is the exact opposite of what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
So that was so then I got the idea to write the song about discovering Joni that way, or discovering that song anyway, as being the complete opposite, but in its own way, like teaching me more about songwriting than I ever expected. I came in thinking I'd have a funky thing I could dance to, and then she just ripped my soul apart.
Right. Yeah. It's almost this Inception level of like, you're looking at it from Prince liked this song and I like Prince and he's name checking her, so I'm going to check. Yeah, and yeah, it's cool how you can weave that kind of expectation in, and it's almost like an emotion can grab you from one end when you're looking over here, and it's pretty cool how that can happen sometimes.
And that's the lyric: "Love is already funky."
Right.
You don't need to funk it up; it's already funky, baby.
Like encyclopedia black, I'm trying to solve this case of you. It's a brand new mystery for a kid detective to investigate. Like an acute purple Bravo prequel backing into blue. As the beat inside my head begins to syncopate. But love is already funky, so when you go to paint it, you don't need nothing extra. If you try too hard, that ain't it. I dropped the needle for the first surprise. I gotta wait for track 9. Right out the gate she say she alive. And all she want is to get up and buggy jive.
I could do that.
Do you have training as a cinematographer, as an editor? Is that part of your trade in any way? Because you're very good at it.
I kind of stumbled into it. My first full-time job out of college was at the local PBS station.
Okay. And
I wasn't by any means like operating cameras or anything, but just by osmosis, like you learn things like composition and pacing and editing, just watching other people, putting shows together. And a lot of it was just learning on the job, as technology got better and it was much easier to do editing, on a computer, some projects kind of fell my way and I'd have to make my way through them. It became a pretty big chunk of my portfolio at work at one point. And I was like, I got to back away from this because it's hurting my soul. Like there was one project I had and there were like 10 people and I was trying to make art, because, I'm an artist.
Yes. Right.
Like, oh, we don't know. We need this in there. Oh, we need this guy because he. It's like, but
that is hilarious. That's hilarious.
How can we squeeze this person in?
Yeah,
I'm making art. Leave me alone.
So I don't know if you know this, but I'm a television editor.
Yeah,
that's my gig. So
yeah,
and that's what it is. It's you create this thing, and then you have literally, anywhere from 6 to 8 people at different levels of the organization, the production company, the studio, the network, all of it, weigh in and tell you all the things that you did wrong, or you have to put this in here. And you're like, no, that's not the story. That's.
I will say though, for my latest record, I have a couple ideas that I haven't gotten to jump on in terms of produced music videos, but I kind of want to back away from the music video thing a little bit. Just like the next project that I am going to do when I find the time is just set up outdoors somewhere and just do solo acoustic versions of some of the songs from the record, just to kind of keep it simple and focus on the song. Although, there are definitely a couple that I have on the side that I'm like, I should turn this into something more. So we'll see. Hopefully within the next 6 months, time will stand still and I'll have time to.
Yeah, right. That's the trick, right? It's finding the time. Yeah, I'm the same way. Like I have all this, 20 years of background in the, video and TV film production, and
Yeah.
I've done exactly one music video, and that
Wow.
was just super down and dirty. Gio came over and we pointed an iPhone as I'm like floating in my pool, basically. Like it's the production value is bare bones. So, but yeah, it's a time thing, right? It's just a matter of
it's always a time thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Another super interesting video that you did, and another very meta story is for Tiny Desk, which you talk about this in the song, but you've got everybody asking you, why are you going to submit to Tiny Desk? Submit to Tiny Desk. So it sounds like in Don't Quit Your Day Job, you finally gave into that request, and you have this song in this video. So tell me about Don't Quit Your Day Job.
Yeah, that was one where the concept for the video and the writing of the song definitely went hand in hand.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, even in the second verse, I'm talking about there are 4 of me here.
Yeah, right. That's super meta.
So I didn't know how I was going to shoot it, and I went through a couple of configurations when I finally settled on like the 360 camera and just being kind of in the round and just panning around to all 4 of me playing the song. But I knew like every year it would come up, and like people, I wouldn't say all my friends, but like, you should have you ever done Tiny Desk? You should Tiny Desk. It's like, I don't know. But, I figured I kind of found a way to hack in by writing about. It's another Joni Mitchell trick. They're like, we like the record, but we want a hit. Can you write us a hit? And she's like, Oh, I'll write a song about DJs. You turn me on, I'm a radio. I mean, she totally wrote that because she knew the DJs would, dig a song about DJing in the radio. So, and it worked. So it was my way to kind of hack in. I was like, I'll write a song about Tiny Desk for Tiny Desk, and my ambivalence toward, contests and American Idol and those kind of things. I never feel like the kind of stuff that I write and do kind of fits those songwriting contests, voice contests, kind of. I just feel like what I do doesn't necessarily fit what those contest judges are looking for.
Yeah. They're looking for the big, easily digestible, big hook kind of pop song, and what you're doing is definitely more. It's got a more emotional weight to it.
Yeah, I will say the Tiny Desk is. I mean, they're pretty good about art over commerce in that respect, in terms of the contest and what's won over the acts that have won over the years.
Yeah,
but even then, I just feel like I don't necessarily write the kind of songs that lots of people want to listen to. I don't.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? It's kind of
I totally know what you mean.
Niche. Yeah.
There's a line in there that I completely identify with, and I think is a truism for a lot of people like you and I who are songwriters and putting things out into the world and have some degree of people that dig what we do, but are largely nobody knows who the fuck we are.
Right.
But the line is, I try so hard, but also not hard enough. And I feel that a lot. Like that's super me. Right. You go on to, to pray to God, and God says, don't quit your day job. It's such a fun song and fun video.
All my friends every year this time be saying, ain't you gonna entertain Desk? I try so hard, but also not hard enough. Maybe I should pray to God. Help me shoot my shot, give it everything I got. The Lord said, do not quit your day job. I'm just another songwriter, thinks he's ever going better. Before me, it's kinda grotesque. For me, ain't for more time better, and more enough for time to death.
I think when I came up with the God rap, the God flow, I think that helped put it together. Like,
Yeah.
pull it, like God answers back.
Right.
Mic check one, mic check, Buggy. Check your ego behind that tiny desk. Got the nerve to compare your day job to Job's distress. Regret sucks when it comes from success. You wanna retire by the loophole of 5-0 and join that fire community gang. But beware the backyard gold bearing the pretend trend, seeking immunity from everything. Seeking actions without consequence, acting with impunity. Equality ain't equity, ain't equal opportunity. We quote the dreams of a king without fail, cause they ain't never heard no letter from no Birmingham jails. Acting a fool like Atticus in Act 2, seeking Tom Robinson's acquittal, while still getting paid $15 million a year to tell all y'all to shut up and dribble. So stand your ass up.
And there's a lot of that in a lot of your songs too. That element of tongue in cheek. I don't want to call it comedy, although it is to a degree. It's not Weird Al by any stretch. It's just a little wink. Like I know what this is. I'm not taking myself too seriously while I'm also taking myself seriously. So is that an important element for you that you focus on?
I think humor, and especially humor versus comedy, like you say. Like, I don't always get off on like funny songs per se, but I do like a sense of humor in, here and there, and a knowing nod and a wink. And again, going back to, we keep going back to Prince and Joni, were the masters of dropping like this, hilarious stuff in the middle of, and not, a lot of it went over people's heads, but
you have a couple other in another song that I really appreciate. Ain't going anywhere.
Oh yeah.
The line that I love, there's a couple that I love, but and then I can kind of ask you about that song. But I got the best damn records that you never heard, which again I appreciate that, and I agree you do. And I got 12 guitars and 3 chords. Again, also guilty. But you talk about the genesis of that song, and that's another one with the fun video too.
Yeah, and that was Don't Quit Your Day Job, and that one were definitely, the video was written with the song was written with the video in mind, especially as I'm going through. And I didn't think of this until way after the fact, but it kind of like mimics The Police, When the World is Running Down, you make the best of what's still around.
Yeah. Because
like he's like listing all these, presumably he's like in a bomb shelter and it's the nuclear apocalypse or whatever. That is how I always picture the song, but he's listing all the little things that he has in his possession, as the world crumbles around him. And that's kind of what I did. Although I did not have that in mind when I wrote the song. Sorry, Sting. I totally plagiarized you. But it was kind of fun to like go around the room and just kind of find rhymes for everything on the walls and all the stuff. And I really do have Rick James's passport.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Talk about that. How did that happen?
A friend of mine who lives in LA, known him since kindergarten, Ed Costico, what's up? I think the story was his aunt rented out their house for a party, but whoever rented the place trashed it. And in the rubble, as they were cleaning the place up, his passport was just kind of lying around there. And they gave it to Ed. And for he's the best at like the craziest birthday presents. So he gave it to me for a birthday one year. He's like, "Hey, I got a present for you." And I'm like, "What is Rick James?" At that point he was alive. I'm like, does he need this? Like, what? It's crazy. I don't know if I should be talking about this. It's probably not legal for me to be in possession of it.
It's got to be expired by now, right? Like, yeah.
Yeah.
You're good.
Definitely. But it's funny because it has his real name on it. And then in fine print, it says the bearer is also known as Rick James. It's crazy.
So on your records, do you record them all there in that space that you're in? Is that you playing most of the stuff, or how are you going into a traditional studio? Or
the drums I cheat on. The drums are usually they're live players, but they're like drum packages. So it'll be like Omar Hakim, and here's a 3/4 beat at 70 BPM, and here's a bunch of loops, from one session with him.
Yeah, gotcha.
So
Like through
that's the kind
Splice or
of thing.
something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what I heard is
Um,
Omar Hakim is playing on your records. This was what I
Omar
heard.
Hakim, Nate Smith. I mean, it's
Yeah,
like these are
that's
like
amazing.
world class. I stumbled on those because I was recording some song, and I was like, oh, it'd be cool if I had like a Bonham break right here, like when the levee breaks.
Yeah.
And that's how I found this site, because they had like a Bonham drum package, and I'm like,
Yeah.
what? Okay. I mean, it wasn't actual Bonham samples. It was like kind of recreating, some of his
Right. Sure.
classic beats with that same
Yeah.
big Ludwig sound or whatever.
So when you do perform live, then too, do you do the loop pedal thing? Are you kind of building stuff that way, or are you just troubadour style?
I try to use it sparingly, because I mean, you can easily become known as the loop guy,
Right? Yeah, exactly.
And it's like you start the loop and it takes you 3 minutes to set up the song, and the song is only 2 minutes long. It's like I don't want to get into that too much, but I do like the way that it allows me as a solo acoustic player to kind of mix it up during a set,
Yeah.
add a little variety.
Yeah. My kids bought me one for Christmas a couple years ago, and with the intention that I asked them, I'm like, what do you want for Christmas, Dad? I'm like, hey, buy me something. And the intention was, I'm going to, be one of those guys that can do that. And I've just never, there's something that just doesn't feel, it's like you're saying, it ends up being too much to build, and I just want to play the song.
Right.
So I use it sparingly for those little moments, and it's cool. Yeah. Or a lot of times what I'll do is I'll just load the drum beat and the bass line, and I'll just play it. It's almost like a band in a box.
It's good for rehearsing and.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're almost at the end of our hour here, but I wanted to ask you, I know we talked a little bit about, I'm afraid to say the name of this song.
Oh, Scheherazade of Schenectady.
Yes, that's the one. Thank you.
That's a mouthful.
It is.
I'm a recovering English major. I don't know. I woke up. I had a crazy dream. I was out in Albany, and a friend of mine from high school, we were driving her home back to Schenectady. She was in the back seat. She's kind of passed out. There's some weird dude was driving. I was shotgun. And it was this weird, surreal dream I had. And I woke up and I was like, I kind of want to write a song about that, because I was writing the song about it, like in the dream, which doesn't really happen for me. Like I never wake up and go, oh, there's a song. Let me get.
Yeah.
But it kind of happened. So I just I immediately went downstairs and I didn't even think. I was just like flow state, just like let it go. And I jotted down a bunch of words and I tried to make it work. And I'm like, this doesn't make sense to anyone but me, and it never will. And I will let this die here. So it was a nice experiment, but I'm all done. But then I was reading a couple books. I was reading James by Percival Everett, who is, he wrote the book that the movie American Fiction was based on.
Okay.
And his book, James, is a retelling of Huck Finn from Jim's perspective. And it's a wild book.
Yeah.
But a lot of that book was about storytelling and perspective and the whole Rashomon thing of different perspectives.
Right.
And then another book I kind of stumbled on was by Julia Alvarez, The Cemetery of... I'm telling you, man, I am the worst. I can't remember anything. Anyway, song about a book about a novelist, and she's kind of at the end of her career. She's got all these piles of notes from stories that she never, that never turned into books or poems or whatever, and she wants to literally bury them in her yard. But the stories and the characters in the stories, the ghosts of these, forgotten characters start to talk to her or whatever. And it's very much about storytelling. And her pen name in the book is Scheherazade, who's the storyteller of Arabian Nights and that whole thing.
Yeah.
So what I finally came up with was a mashup of all three of those, like Scheherazade from the Julia Alvarez book, and then James from the Percival Everett book, and then the last verse is me trying to force a story out of this crazy dream I had.
Yeah.
And I don't know. That's usually how songs work for me. It's like it's usually some kind of mashup of seemingly unrelated things that I'm trying to force to mean something.
Yeah.
You know, the whole being bigger than the sum of the parts, I guess.
That it does. It's kind of a theme with what, at least the ones that we've talked about. There's definitely like you've got a lot of layers of different stories, and you know, like I mentioned the what's it called, the Inception thing earlier. You're a little bit of a pioneer of the multiverse too. That's very of the time, right?
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, with your four buggies in the video.
4 buggies. How many buggies could a woodchuck chuck?
So if I were a voting member of the Academy, I would have picked American Fiction for Best Picture. I thought that movie was amazing.
That was a good one.
So good.
And there's so much more in the book too. It's like, I mean, that was the first thing when I saw the movie. I'm like, I got to read the book because there's like, and you know, because I'm like, the movie kind of raises some questions, and then I get to the book and I'm like, oh my God, the book raises even more questions.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy. Yeah, but it was really cool. Yeah.
Definitely. This has been fantastic. I really love what you're putting out into the world. So thank you for everything that you're creating and putting out there. And we need more people to listen to Buggy Jive and dig into those videos that are so creative and cool.
Well, thanks, man. Thanks.
What's next for you? You working on any? And you just came out. Your record came out this year.
Yeah, right? In the summer to little fanfare. I had all these promotion plans, and then like just life gets in the way.
And now I hear
it's funny, as I've dialed back day job stuff, there's still a lot going on. Yeah, with the music and life and everything. Yeah. But it's all good. It's all good, and I'm doing it at my own pace. So that's cool. I'm not forcing. But hit these conferences. I've got some shows coming up, and just.
Are you still write? Do you write every day too? Is that kind of a?
I want to be that guy, but I'm trying to play every day.
Yeah.
Like I said, like a lot of my song ideas come from mistakes. So.
Yeah.
I can't sit down and force myself to make mistakes. So mistakes happen when they happen.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. You have to be practicing to make the mistakes.
I do have a pile of little mistakes, and at some point I'll sit down with and turn into something, I guess.
But no, this has been great. It's been lovely to have
really
you.
Cool.
And like I said before, I truly enjoy what you're putting out into the world, and I hope to hear much more from you in the future.
Well, thanks a lot, man. This has been great, man.
Thanks for listening to Wils Bach's Song Pod. If you've made it this far, please rate, review, like, love, add, subscribe, do all the things on whatever app it is that you're hearing my voice. That lets the almighty algorithm know that interesting people like you like this show, and will serve it up to other cool and interesting people. Wils Bach's Song Pod is produced by Wils Bach Entertainment, LLC. Mixed, mastered, and edited by me, Tim Wils Bach. See you next time.